Joining us right now is the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee and Texas Congressman Kevin Brady. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
Walk us through the most important parts of this budget. A lot of people on the left are talking about cuts, but it's actually cuts to the growth of spending, correct?
Yeah, it actually is. And look, this is a welcome change. You know, all my constituents want is a government that's efficient, that makes wise use of their money, that actually lives within its means. And the Trump budget shows that is a big challenge, but we can change the direction the country is going. And so, look, I think this outline is a way that helps get us to a balanced budget. Sure, we're going to make changes, but look, when you look at stronger growth, restrained spending, when you raise revenues by getting people back to work, just the things businesses do to turn themselves around when they're in financial trouble, we use those same just common sense techniques to turn the country's financial situations around as well.
Well, let me bring you some comments from the Committee for a Responsible Budget, and I know you've seen Maya McGinnis's comments on this, and she says the projection appears to be based on unrealistic growth assumptions that are unlikely to materialize, Congressman. She says that the administration's projections of 3% economic growth are far above those outside forecasters and would require exceeding the economic performance of the 1990s. She doesn't think it's going to happen.
So we'll look carefully at those growth numbers. I noticed in yesterday's hearing, Larry Lindsey estimates that the House blueprint will grow the U.S. economy by over 3% here in these initial 2, 3, 4 years and settle in at a good growth number. We're going to work with Treasury Department on their growth numbers in the budget, make sure we get it right.
All right, let me ask you about, in terms of what some people are calling another entitlement, the family leave situation here. You know, Dagan's been talking about this morning. Why another entitlement?
Yes, so we'll look carefully at that proposal. We've got the initial language, obviously, from the budget. We're going to sit down with the White House to find out what they want to accomplish in there. Clearly, by estimates, this could be a $25 billion type of spending program. That raises red flags in a austere budget that still is running deficits, but let's sit down and find out exactly what they want to accomplish.
Okay, so you're looking at this as a set of policy proposals. You think it's going to look much different when all is said and done?
You know, I think at the end of the day, Congress is going to make its adjustments and changes to it. It ought to. But also at the end of the day, we're going to pass a budget that balances within 10 years, that sets the stage for tax reform, very bold pro-growth tax reform, and the budget resolution is the first and most important step in that.
Well, let's talk about that, because Republicans are pushing forward with the plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. We know that the CBO score for the GOP health care plan is due out this afternoon. What should we expect, Congressman?
You know, I expect us to have healthy deficit reductions in here, savings to the budget that'll be reflected in our budget as well. I think you're going to see, I'm hopeful that there will be lower premiums. There'll be more stable pricing for those stuck in Obamacare over the next 2 or 3 years. We're hopeful, too, that this really gives the Senate a roadmap to continue to strengthen. We've updated the health care repeal and replace in a very positive way, and I expect CBO to reflect that.
Well, let me ask you about where you are in terms of your work on tax reform and on the domestic agenda, because we know that, you know, there are a lot of headlines around Russia and the Senate doing hearings on the Russia collusion potential story, as well as the president's international trip. There's a lot of other headlines going on. Where are you on tax reform, sir?
We're laser focused. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
With the administration, with the Senate, on the issue of tax reform. We know we have to deliver with President Trump a bold pro-growth tax reform this year. And so we have got our blinders on, laser focused on this, meeting regularly with the White House and with the Senate. And so we're going to continue on our timetable for 2017.
So you still think you can get this done this year?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah. Secretary Mnuchin told the Freedom Caucus that President Trump is opposing a border adjustment tax. Is that off the table at this point?
No, it's not, because everyone has another question. So what's the better idea? So we recognize border adjustment is a bold change. It matches what our competitors around the world do. We sincerely don't believe that tweaking the corporate income tax will get us where we need to be in the 21st century. And from the hearing we heard yesterday, clearly bringing back manufacturing and research and headquarters to America won't be easy, and it will take time, and we're going to have to go bold to do it. And so we are open to better ideas, whether it's from the White House, from the Senate, from any of our House Republican members, and how we achieve that bold pro-growth reform. This is, look, tax reform is a process. It's not easy and smooth like Derek Jeter. It is scrappy and gritty, and there is a whole lot of work, but then at the end of the day, we're going to deliver with this president.
I like the Derek Jeter mention there, that you slipped that in, Congressman.
Yes.
But let me ask you, what are the alternatives? I mean, are you thinking that a higher corporate tax rate makes that money up? Is an import tax in the trade part of the economic policy make that up? Where do you make up the loss of more than $1 trillion that you would have gotten in a border adjustment tax?
So we'll leave that alternative to those who don't feel comfortable with the border adjustment for equal taxation within the U.S. and ending the Made in America tax. For those who aren't comfortable with that, bring your ideas forward, and let's assess them, lay them out together, but let's stay at the table until we can get this done and deliver this year.
Yeah, so for example, I mean, the president comes out with this idea of a 15% corporate tax rate. Obviously, you're not going to do a 15% corporate tax rate, right? I mean, what's a likely corporate tax rate? 25%? Is that what you'd like to see?
So we're going to continue to work with I want 20% lower if we can. But as importantly, besides the rate, you have to redesign this tax code to be competitive, and more importantly, it's got to be permanent. If we want businesses to change behavior and bring and relocate those plants and research back to the United States, they have to have certainty, not just for 5 or even 10 years. These are 30 and 40-year decisions. So permanence and bold makes a difference.
Yeah. What about the deductions? What are you poised to give on in terms of the deductions? I know that's also the debate going on right now. So
yes.
Where are your priorities in terms of eliminating deductions?
Yeah, so look, all of that focuses on what's the most pro-growth tax code we can have. Do we stick with the old corporate income tax model, make some tweaks, see if we can't try to catch up with our global competitors, or do we go bold with a new system really focused on the U.S., focused on cash flow, again, meets and matches, if not exceeds, our competitors? And so those will be, Maria, those will all be really important discussions and questions going forward.
So here we are, on the doorstep of June. When are these discussions happening, Congressman? I mean, I recognize you say, look, we're going to get this done this year, but the clock is ticking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is ticking, which is why I think it's important the White House, the House, and Senate continue to work together toward a single unified tax plan. If that's possible, I think that dramatically increases our success for this year.
Congressman, we'll be watching the story. Thanks so much.
Thanks.